Bill Villa is my guest this morning. He, by the way, has been twice before asked and invited by the Office of Victim Advocates in Harrisburg to share his story with graduating classes of the Pennsylvania parole agents at their training academy in Elizabethtown, and he does that on a recurring basis. And his story is the story of his daughter being killed by a drunk driver. And his story, though, goes beyond that, and he feels, and I hear this from a lot of people, which is why I'm having him on. I hear this people that get in the system. They're the victims. I can tell you even sponsors who've been in this seat that he's in, and they feel like they're the ones who are having to argue and put so much energy into making sure that justice is brought on behalf of their loved one. And that's where we had gotten with Bill, whose daughter was, again, Sheena, was killed at age 25, her 25th birthday. His last words to her were, or her last words to you were, "I love you too," and that's the last he heard from his daughter. So, again, welcome, Bill.
Thanks, Bobby.
We have 10 minutes. Why don't you get us up to speed and tell us why you feel the way you do, that victims don't get justice, and give us the particulars of your case. Go ahead.
And you know what? To your point yesterday of crime victims being re-victimized, that's why the parole agents graduating classes are such a good audience, and why the Office of the Victim Advocate thinks it's important for people like me to speak to them, because it's important for them to know that a lot of the crime victims they deal with are re-victimized by the justice system.
Constantly.
Sometimes unintentionally, but frequently purposefully.
Look at Danny Faulkner's widow.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened with you, though. You ended up feeling like you had to work so hard to get justice for your daughter.
I did. Just to pick up where we left off yesterday, the last 30 seconds of my daughter Sheena's life were spent in screaming abject terror, according to the police interview of the surviving backseat passenger. Sheena was a front seat passenger. She was in a vehicle being driven by a drunk driver with a .24 blood alcohol content who was terrorizing his two passengers with speed. They figure
he was going about 85 miles an hour on Parkway Boulevard by the Rose Garden.
He hit the tree at a minimum speed of 85 miles an hour. The point of impact was the roof right over Sheena's head. She was rendered instantly brain dead. And Officer Kevin Kennedy of the Allentown Police, who was terrific, couldn't have been more helpful, responsive, empathetic. He told me that Robert Labar's blood alcohol content of .24 and the crash speed minimum 85 miles an hour was the highest combo he had ever seen in his whole time as an Allentown cop. Even District Attorney Martin, years later, in a letter to the parole board that he copied me on, mentioned that even though the nature of these kinds of cases involve high blood alcohol count and speed, he called this one exceptional.
But you've had a bone to pick with Jim. You feel like, and I'm going to tell you, I've talked to a lot of people, and I know that you feel like you had to work so hard to get justice, and that Jim was part of the problem. And yet, I've talked to people who said, "Man, they brought up that Texas case where the kid killed somebody, and he got away with it because the lawyer said, well, he was spoiled and he was never told right from wrong." And
right.
So
well,
go ahead.
I thought this should have been third-degree murder, and the reason for that is because of the malice that was involved.
And give me the definition of malice, not in a dictionary, but for a crime.
The well-settled legal definition of malice reads thusly: malice consists of a wickedness of disposition, hardness of heart, cruelty, recklessness of consequences, and a mind regardless of social duty, although a particular person may not be intended to be injured. Malice may be found where the defendant consciously disregarded an unjustified and extremely high risk that his actions might cause serious bodily injury. Robert Labar consciously disregarded two passengers screaming for 30 seconds for him to knock it off and slow down. Even District Attorney Martin admitted that in a clip that is on my website, Lehigh Valley Somebody.
That's the name of the website?
My website is called Lehigh Valley Somebody. Okay. And you can see this TV clip when Labar was finally arrested. Jim Martin, in a rare moment where he wasn't reading from prepared notes, said, and this is his exact quote, "I think that there will be evidence that will indicate that both he and Miss Villa cautioned LeBar to slow down."
So you wanted third-degree murder.
Yeah.
What was he charged with?
He was charged with vehicular homicide while DUI.
Okay.
And 13 other charges.
And you also felt it took too long to bring the charges, correct?
Well, it took 2.5 months to arrest him.
To arrest him?
Yes.
2.5 months to have him arrested?
That's right. And actually, that's pretty fast for Lehigh County District Attorney Jim Martin. I have cases, and I emailed you links to several of them. We can get to those at a future show. It's not unusual for Jim Martin to take 6 months up to a year to file charges for DUI homicide. There's several cases that I was watching that the drunk driver who killed someone was free and driving around Lehigh County for 2 years after the crash death.
So, all right, this is what these are all.
And Bobby, it's not like that everywhere.
No, but I'm going to just say I'm interviewing you. If Mr. Martin wants to come on, District Attorney Martin wants to come on and say his side, he's welcome to. You're saying these are all facts. You've sent me links, and a lot of what you're saying, I can see the clip. I understand that you've shown. Yep. I don't know everything is fact that you're saying because you're sending me the stuff. I'm not trying to call you a liar. I'm doing my best to be fair to you and to Mr. Martin. But I do sense, and having been my own dad was assaulted, and what we had to do to get his guy arrested, it took him, the guys arrested, 3 men. Took us 8.5 months. So it's and I've had a sponsor who lost a spouse, and you never stop being the victim because the person who committed the crime always has wants a do-over.
Right.
And it just never ends for the victims. And so I feel there's got to be a lot of people that can relate to what you're going through out there, that can relate to what you've gone through.
Bobby, part of my research in the days and weeks after Sheena was killed, I was able to locate longtime Potter County District Attorney Jeff Lieber, and we swapped quite a few telephone calls and emails. And based on just the crash speed and the blood alcohol count, Jeff Lieber told me, and I have emails, from him on this, if this happened in Potter County, he would have charged third-degree murder.
And there were 5 precedent-setting cases you had told me in an off-air conversation.
He steered me towards, well, he actually confirmed 2 that I had already found. Commonwealth versus Kling and Commonwealth versus Urbanski, cases where drunk drivers were doing the same thing Robert LeBar was doing, terrorizing their passengers with speed. But they weren't as drunk as Robert LeBar, and they weren't going as fast. They were charged with third-degree murder, convicted, and their convictions were upheld on appeal.
All right. Now, so why are you on here? Why you wanted to come on? I wanted you on because I feel like this relates to a lot of people who feel like they have to fight so hard, and you're not alone. This is not something that just occurs to you. I actually talked to somebody once and said, I just think the victims now anymore are the ones that have to. I know you have to prove somebody wrong, but it almost seems like. I don't know how to explain it to you. It seems like 8.5 months for us, 2.5 months. It just seems crazy. It seems unfair.
I got a great piece of advice.
But why are you on here? And then we'll give the piece of advice. Why are you have a vendetta against Jim Martin? Why are you? I know I get your daughter died. I get that.
No, I don't have a vendetta against Jim Martin. I think he might have a vendetta against me. But no, I would like to see him replaced as district attorney. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm here. That's part of the reason why I'm here.
Okay. What's your piece of advice?
The advice I got. There were some people along the way that were really helpful. Officer Kennedy was certainly one of them.
We have a minute.
When we were in the hospital, Andy Kem from the coroner's office was there as they were taking Sheena upstairs to harvest her organs and do an autopsy. I said to Andy, "So what do I do now?" And he said, "Do your homework. Be polite, but be persistent. Be proactive." He said, "You may have to light a fire under people here." In doing my homework, I found out that I was going up against one of the blue blood, good old boy networks in the Lehigh Valley here, with Robert LeBar being associated with the Gross, McGinley, LeBar, and Eaton law firm.
And then also you said yesterday, that haven't seen this. You're saying that that law firm contributes, even though it's mostly Democrats, contributes to Jim Martin, who's a Republican.
Well, Mal Gross, who's a Democrat,
okay.
is a major fundraiser.
And you feel
for Jim Martin.
All right. So, you know what? This is a very compelling story. The reason I also want Bill on is there are other cases that I feel are out there that we talk about, like I said, legislative stuff all the time. We don't cover court stuff. And that impacts our lives, all of our lives, as much as legislative. So we'll see if we can bring up some of those other cases and get Bill on in future shows.